Today we show you how to size a skimmer to your tank, meaning get the right tool for the right job the first time. Keep that tank clean, save yourself some cash, all in 5 minutes or less. Hey, this is Ryan with BRStv's 5-minute guide to skimmers. This protein skimmer mini-series is direct answers to the most common questions because information should never be a barrier to getting the most from your skimmer. This week we share with you how to size a skimmer to almost any size tank. We're looking for peak performance without wasting money on something larger than we need, or worse, having to rapidly upgrade later because it ended up too small. The right tool for the right job the first time. The challenge here is recommendations on the box are just guidelines, so when it says good for tanks up to 100 gallons, that's just a starting point. Some of the better options will be clear with 75 gallons for heavy bioload, 150 for medium, or 225 for a light bioload. But the challenge here isn't just what light, medium, and heavy bioload actually means. Is that amount of fish or amount of food? But even beyond that, your other filtration plays a role here as well. For instance, if you change out your filter socks every 2 to 3 days, you're dramatically reducing the bioload on the skimmer. Okay, so that all sounds complex, but trust me, by the end of this video, I think most reefers will have this down and be able to pick out the right tool with relative ease. That said, I know how hard this is because I've got the wrong one more times than I'd like to count. In my case, more often than not by going too powerful, but I also talked to thousands of reefers who got this wrong as well, and it just sucks, and it can be solved. The first thing I'm going to share is bigger is not necessarily better. Oversizing your skimmer does not mean that it'll work better. In fact, performance will often be notably worse. I'll go one step further and say going too big will actually cause way more problems than going too small. So if I had advice for anyone, it's lean to the smaller end of the spectrum rather than the larger. The right size is obviously the right answer, but this is why underpower is better than overpowered. An underpower skimmer will actually work decent, meaning it provides a consistent foam that flows over in the cup. That's because there's ample organics in the tank to produce a desired foam. However, just like any underpowered or undersized filter, it's leaving a lot behind and only removing a portion of what's possible, meaning the tank water is going to yellow a lot faster, undesirable contaminants will build up faster, most notably continually rising nitrate and phosphate levels that can lead to all kinds of undesirable pest outbreaks, particularly in those first few years of a tank. So it might seem like going larger than needed is a better option, but it isn't, and that's because when you go too big, the skimmer often simply doesn't work at all. There simply isn't enough organics in the tank to support that large skimmer neck, and the increased amount of air leaving through that large neck just pops the thin organic content foam before it can collect and flow over into the cup. Net result is there's no shortage of bubbles in the skimmer body, but at the top where it's supposed to be creating that thick, stable foam, it actually just looks like a boiling pot of water. When it does produce foam, it's often erratic and overflows with just mostly water. So that's why I believe undersized is better than oversized. I'd personally rather have an undersized tool that partially works but consistently, rather than an oversized tool that doesn't work at all or very inconsistently. So let's get it right. Properly sizing your skimmer means 3 things: understanding what low, medium, and heavy bioload is, how other elements of filtration affect that, and are you selecting the skimmer or bioload for day 1 or for a year from now? So first, low, medium, and heavy bioload means only one thing. While it's loosely related to how many fish you have, it's actually not that. In terms of sizing a skimmer, bioload is 100% solely based on how much food you put into the tank. For instance, if you feed a single cube of food to your tank, it might be considered a fairly light bioload. If you feed 1 cube in the morning and 1 at night, or 2 cubes a day, medium bioload might be a good way to describe that. However, if you're feeding a variety of frozen foods, pellets, and algae sheets every day, that's best described as a heavy bioload, and heavy input is matched with heavy output. So this is why a skimmer can have those ranges from 75 gallons all the way up to 3 times that at 225. If both those tanks have 10 fish and fed the exact same thing, this is less about the size of the tank and more about the food input, and why the same skimmer will work on both these tanks. If this is your first tank, I'd assume the middle of that range. If this is your second or third tank, you already know the fish stocking and feeding habits you have and the right end of that spectrum for you. I'd use the manufacturer's guidelines accordingly. However, there are other filters on the tank that play a role here as well, so that's a second consideration. For instance, if you have filter socks in your sump but rarely change them out, it probably won't change the equation much. But if you swap them out every day or use something like an automatic fleece roller or roller mat, you're effectively removing a ton of organics before they break down. So even though you add 3 cubes a day, it might be considered heavy input. The net approach of total filtration, where that removes half of it, means the skimmer's only dealing with low to medium input. So the net of that equation is if the skimmer is the primary filter on your system, go with the manufacturer's suggestion. But if you're installing advanced or elaborate approaches to filtration, or willing to supplement simple approaches to filtration like filter socks with manual efforts and frequent changing, then I'd go to the smaller end of the manufacturer's suggested range. The third piece of this is one that reefers rarely consider: size the skimmer to where you're going, not where you are, and understand the difference. If you're gonna have 30 adult fish in a 120-gallon tank with heavy food input, size the skimmer to that because that's where you're going. That means simply understanding it may not perform ideally day one when you only have a few tiny fish and very limited organic input. It's oversized for that purpose and probably will perform erratically until you get the bioload that it was designed for. Accurate expectations are pretty critical to achieving the best performance and knowing what that looks like. Sadly, the conundrum here is newer tanks are actually more dependent on ideal filtration than established tanks. The best path to solving that is a skimmer that has a wide performance operating range that can scale performance with your system. Body and neck of the skimmer are basically fixed, so the best way to do that is with options that allow you to scale the amount of air injected into the skimmer. AC skimmers do that with a valve on the air line and an acceptable option, but when you turn down the air, the water flow increases, which is not ideal. For that reason, DC skimmers are the best option for selecting something that will scale with your system and related bioload over time. DC skimmers come with a control pad, which tunes down the air and water at the exact same time. So the real question, now that it's much clearer on how to use the manufacturer's sizing guidance to select a skimmer matched to your food input, overall approach to filtration, and sizing to where you're going, not where you're starting, is how do I tune the skimmer to get the best performance at the beginning and end? The answer to that and the entire skimmer mini-series can be found right here, because information should never be a barrier to getting the most out of your skimmer.